They gave one of the daytime's best actresses a voice so ridiculous it's ruining the show. Let's talk about how that happened. The tragedy of Beyond the Gates is that it boasts an enviable cast yet seems determined to trip over its own creative decisions. Exhibit A. Pamela. Once a powerhouse in All My Children, she now appears trapped behind a voice so painfully affected it borders on parody. It's as though someone mistook distinctive for grating. General Hospital had the sense to drop Martin's ill-advised Southern accent early on. Perhaps the Gates team should take notes. Let the woman speak like a human being. She's an actor, not a cartoon. Elsewhere, the show's narrative chaos continues to spiral delightfully off the rails. The Dupri mansion apparently has an elevator. Who knew? Kat's gone from demure to dangerous in record time, and Leslie seems intent on spending herself into oblivion. Her money faucet, as one might call it, is about to run dry, and watching that impending financial reckoning might be the most satisfying subplot yet. Bill, meanwhile, appears to be playing amateur detective, possibly tracking Haley, who may or may not be tangled up with Randy. Andre is a walking red flag. Either he's someone else entirely, or the kind of man who'd orchestrate a family tragedy for a payout. His convenient lack of family photos feels less like mystery and more like a neon warning sign. And speaking of red flags, Nicole's insistence on entertaining Carlton defies all reason. The man's moral compass spun off its axis long ago. He coveted his best friend's wife, betrayed both friendship and decency, and somehow still expects sympathy. Ted may be no saint, but at least his flaws were honest. Naomi, on the other hand, is exhausting in her own right, a human pendulum of complaint. First, she fears pregnancy, then she isn't pregnant, and instead of relief, she doubles down on her misery. Her poor husband Jacob, who dares to want children, must feel like he married an emotional Rubik's Cube. It's astonishing that a legal mind as sharp as hers can't manage basic communication with her spouse. There are, mercifully, moments of grace amid the chaos. Nicole handled Leslie's venom with poise and restraint. Beautiful, composed, the definition of grace under fire. And Peaches, bless her, delivered the verbal smackdown Leslie's been begging for since episode 1. Should tragedy strike Peaches, one can only hope it jolts Leslie into something resembling humanity. Though given her current trajectory, that's a long shot. Still, a more fundamental question looms. Is Beyond the Gates allergic to portraying healthy black love? Every romantic storyline ends in deceit, scandal, or self-sabotage. Would it kill the writers to craft one, just one, relationship built on mutual respect instead of manipulation and melodrama? Until then, viewers are left watching a collection of beautiful disasters careen through implausible plot twists, tone-deaf accents, and squandered potential. The performances are strong. The writing, unfortunately, remains the show's most consistent villain. Everyone swears Vernon Dupri is the last good man on this show. But what if that's the biggest lie CBS ever told us? Anita and Vernon Dupri remain the undisputed monarchs of marital theatrics, a couple so wildly synchronized in passion and pageantry, they practically trademarked their own foreplay. Every moan echoes, "We are the Dupris," a rallying cry for matrimonial excess. Beneath their glossy veneer, however, lurks the delicious question that keeps viewers clutching pearls. What exactly is Vernon hiding? The fandom is split. One camp believes Vernon's secret is sordid. Another woman, perhaps, or a community outreach program of the most biblical kind. After all, the man radiates the confidence of someone who's been blessed in all departments. His chemistry with Anita could power a small city, but in Soapland, bedroom fireworks often camouflage emotional bankruptcy. The evidence? Women flirt with him right in front of Anita, and he seems to enjoy it. The smirk, the indulgent chuckle, classic symptoms of a man playing with matches in a room full of gasoline. Yet another, more optimistic camp insists Vernon is merely misunderstood, a faithful husband caught in the gravitational pull of soap opera suspicion. This faction sees him not as a cheater, but as the last moral compass in a world of wayward men. Ted, Bill, Tomas, serial adulterers, every one of them. Surely CBS wouldn't dare tarnish its one stable marriage. No, the real scandal must lie elsewhere. A financial scheme, a tangle of debts, and disappearing donations. A desperate attempt to preserve the Dupri's gilded facade. The phone calls, the mysterious meetings, the sudden fixation on charity accounts. These are the breadcrumbs of fiscal sin, not romantic folly. There's even a more whimsical theory. Vernon, who claims he can't carry a tune, is secretly taking singing lessons to surprise Anita with a serenade. This would be poetic irony. An actor known for his voice pretending to be tone-deaf for a payoff of pure sentimental spectacle. If true, it would mark the first time in soap history that a husband's secret turned out to be something other than a mistress, a crime, or a long-lost child. Still, whispers persist about Leslie. Could Vernon be her biological father? The plotline has been teased, toyed with, and avoided just long enough to feel inevitable. Soap logic dictates that every family needs one misplaced heir, and the Dupris are overdue for theirs. For all the speculation, one truth remains. The writers are not subtle. Subtext on this show is about as elusive as a foghorn. Every close-up, every conveniently overheard conversation screams, "Look! Suspense!" And yet, for all their transparency, the creative team seems hesitant to fully detonate the Dupri marriage. Perhaps they've realized that endless infidelity is not character development, it's lazy storytelling. Whether Vernon is siphoning charity funds or simply fine-tuning his falsetto, one can only hope the truth doesn't reduce him to another cliché in a show already drowning in them. The Dupris, after all, are the rare couple who still make commitment look glamorous, part love story, part power play, entirely unbothered by propriety. If the writers are wise, they'll let Vernon's secret be scandalous, but not predictable. Leave the cheating to the amateurs. The Dupris deserve a sin worthy of their brand, audacious, opulent, and just moral enough to keep us rooting for their redemption. Stop telling us to feel sorry for Leslie. Some characters earn redemption. She earned community service. If the writers of Beyond the Gates are hoping the audience will feel sympathy for Leslie, they might want to call in a miracle worker. No amount of trembling lips or strategically timed tears can mask the fact that this woman has been written into a corner so deep she could apply for subterranean residency. Leslie's scenes with her mother, Peaches, are apparently meant to humanize her, a touching glimpse into a softer core beneath all that scheming silk. Unfortunately, the sentiment lands about as convincingly as a taxidermied cat. The issue isn't the storyline itself. Aging or terminally ill parents are potent material. It's that Leslie, up to this point, has shown less authentic affection than a department store mannequin. When a character spends 98% of her screen time behaving like an unmedicated Disney villain, a sudden outburst of tenderness doesn't move the audience. It confuses them. Peaches herself inspires little more than disbelief. It's difficult to invest in an emotional arc when the elderly mother looks like she could share a cocktail and contour palette with her on-screen daughter. The decision not to cast an older actress robs the scenes of any gravity they might have had, turning what should be poignant into parody. The problem with Leslie runs deeper than bad casting or inconsistent writing. It's structural. From the moment she threw her own daughter, Eva, out after crashing Ted and Nicole's anniversary, Leslie established herself as the show's reigning narcissist. She demands respect, manipulates everyone in sight, and still expects applause for the effort. The audience's emotional investment died somewhere between her next glass of champagne and her latest plot to win over a man who, quite explicitly, wants nothing to do with her. Trisha, the actress behind Leslie, has undeniable talent and comic timing. The one-liners sometimes land like precision strikes, but the direction has her perpetually dialed up to a 10. When the script demands vulnerability, there's nowhere left to go. Every tear, every plea for acceptance feels like performance rather than revelation. The mask never really slips. It just trembles under the weight of its own exaggeration. Yet buried beneath the villainy, one can detect the outline of a compelling idea. Leslie isn't evil for sport. She's desperate for validation. She wants to be loved by Ted, respected by Nicole, and accepted by the Dupris, the very people she alienates with every manipulative stunt. She is a woman who wants to be seen as powerful, but cannot stop behaving like a child throwing tantrums for attention. Her wealth and pedigree have become her entire personality, and when those crumble, there's nothing underneath but fear and resentment. The writers have flirted with redemption arcs before, but with Leslie, such attempts ring hollow. Redemption requires remorse, and this character has displayed all the self-awareness of a brick. Until the show allows her to face consequences, real ones, not just another round of social exile or public humiliation, her crocodile tears will remain exactly that. Reptilian reflex, not emotional evolution. There's a tragedy hiding in Leslie's story, one the show occasionally grazes but never explores. Beneath the designer dresses and illusions of grandeur lies a frightened little girl who believes she was cheated out of the life she deserved. But as long as she keeps destroying others in the process of chasing it, the audience will continue to watch her fall with the satisfaction of people who know justice when they see it. Everyone says Joey is the realest character on the show. Well, let's unpack why he's actually its biggest joke. At this point, the Ted and Carlton medical partnership should come with a toe tag. It's dead. Someone just needs to sign the paperwork. Their mutual loathing has reached the kind of professional impasse that no amount of recertification or waiting periods can mend. Perhaps the writers imagine the split occurred off-screen, but if so, they might consider telling the audience. A clean break would be a mercy. Realistically, one partner would have to buy the other out. But in television fashion, they'll likely just continue pretending professionalism means passive-aggressive eye contact and emotional violence in the break room. Meanwhile, Carlton's moral collapse continues to be a study in self-parody. Broke the Guy code doesn't even begin to cover it. He's dismantled it, sold the parts, and used the profits to fund poor decisions. Then there's Joey, the alleged mobster, and the accidental comic relief of this supposed crime subplot. Every line he delivers comes with unintentional irony. The man is a walking contradiction. He claims power, yet his empire looks like the back room of a failing pawn shop. His muscle, Randy, is a public hazard who handles poison like it's a TikTok challenge. The show wants us to believe Joey is dangerous, but the only thing truly at risk is the viewer's patience. Joey's entire existence screams, discount mob boss. He's neither connected nor competent, and the idea of Vanessa inheriting his business is laughable. She's a luxury real estate agent, not Tony Soprano in heels. The Dupris aligning themselves with her makes no sense, unless they've collectively decided to ruin their reputations for sport. Vanessa, for all her charm, remains a blend of street smarts and self-delusion. Her affection for Joey is pure masochism wrapped in designer clothing. She fears the darkness he represents, but can't resist flirting with it, like a moth convinced it can negotiate with a flame. And yet, she's hardly the show's only contradiction. Naomi and Jacob's storyline has triggered a wave of misplaced outrage. Naomi has been unwaveringly honest about not wanting motherhood, but somehow, the narrative paints her as the villain. When Jacob's paternal instincts finally surface, the writers script Naomi as hysterical rather than human. Her frustration reads not as cruelty, but as a woman realizing, too late, that honesty doesn't guarantee understanding. The audience's willingness to crucify Naomi while giving Joey, a confessed murderer, endless narrative grace is almost impressive. Naomi's flaw is fear. Joey's is sociopathy. Only one of those seems forgivable in this universe, which says more about the writer's moral compass than the characters. Vanessa, however, is the linchpin of this chaos. If she isn't secretly manipulating Joey to avenge Doug's death, then she's simply lost all moral sense. A woman who prioritizes her fling with the town criminal over her son's safety is not complicated. She's tragic. Still, there's an argument to be made that Vanessa's guilt is driving her recklessness, that she's spiraling toward the truth like a moth in the aforementioned flame. When she eventually discovers Joey's hand in Doug's death, the show may finally deliver on its long-promised tension. A scorned Vanessa could become the most dangerous character of all. Proof that when you underestimate a woman's fury, you don't just get drama, you get retribution. Until then, the series continues to wobble between compelling tension and unintentional comedy, a house of cards propped up by bad men, delusional women, and writers who seem allergic to subtlety. They said Beyond the Gates would reinvent the soap genre. Turns out, it just reinvented disappointment. At some point, Beyond the Gates will have to decide whether it's the bold new take on soap storytelling it was marketed as, or just another shiny rerun of every cliché that's ever walked into a hospital, penthouse, or police precinct. The problem isn't that the show lacks storylines. It's that it keeps handing them to the same people while insisting it's breaking new ground. The most glaring issue is the sidelining of Mona, Laura, and Shanice, three women who could easily drive narrative if anyone in the writer's room remembered they exist. Instead, Joey, played by John Lindstrom, who is technically recurring, has somehow become the show's narrative nucleus. Lindstrom's experience is undeniable, but the over-reliance on his mobster-turned-romantic lead shtick reeks of creative timidity. Mona, meanwhile, is the only adult at Fairmont Crest not powered by chaos. She's rational, empathetic, and often more supportive than Nicole herself. Yet she's treated like background decor. The so-called voice of reason has no voice at all. The show's excuse, that there are too many storylines, is thin. Supporting players can support and still matter. Joey, who isn't even on contract, drives more story than half the main cast. And for what? To rehash the same soap archetypes we've all seen before? Leslie could have filled that role: scorned lover, secret child, multiple aliases, mob ties. But no, BTG doubled down on the most predictable option. The writers clearly rated the daytime drama starter pack: Allison, the Instastalker; Haley, the gold-digging con artist; Derek, who faked paralysis; and June, the world's least surprising secret mother. The pacing is breathless, as if the show mistakes speed for innovation. It isn't different, it's derivative on fast forward. If BTG truly wanted to be different, it would explore the stories it rushes past. Killing Kenny, the show's resident racist, was easy. Keeping him alive for a trial, forcing the town to confront the ugliness head-on, would have been revolutionary. Imagine Martin losing his position, Vernon disgraced, Kenny walking free because the system failed again. That's what different looks like. Instead, we get narrative amnesia and moral loopholes. Leslie remains untouchable, not because of clever writing, but because her actress is entertaining. She's a walking crime spree with no consequences. Why not turn her into a scandal-ridden public figure, one the community can't quite cancel? Instead, she's just a neighborhood pest. The same goes for Ted, once a promising character, now a study in bad decision-making. The only way to salvage him is to address the manipulation with Leslie head-on. Make it clear that consent was not mutual, send him to therapy, and let him rediscover what a medical license looks like. And Joey, the supposed sexy bad guy, is neither sexy nor particularly bad. Romanticizing a mobster is lazy. If he's a criminal, make him one. Arrest him, kill him, or at least let him be feared. Watching everyone swoon over a man who should be in federal custody is exhausting. As for the underused women, Mona and Shanice are shaping up to be the show's Epiphany Johnsons. Reliable, grounded, perpetually underwritten. They'll occasionally anchor a story, then fade into the background. Laura's future looks even bleaker. Her creation practically screams future victim. The show's tone deafness is most apparent when Black women are labeled cannon fodder on a series allegedly centered on Black characters. It's insulting, especially in a genre sustained for decades by Black actresses who carried both the ratings and the emotional heft. So yes, different would be nice. But BTG seems content tracing the outlines of soap's past and calling it innovation. At this rate, the only thing new about Beyond the Gates is the font in its title sequence. Stop pretending the Doug storyline still matters. It's been dead longer than Doug himself. At this point, the Doug storyline has been wrung so dry it's practically powdered. The man is gone. Dead, off-screen, irrelevant. Yet the show insists on dragging his memory through every scene like a ghost that refuses to check out. The problem isn't just narrative fatigue, it's that this entire subplot has devolved into a vehicle for giving Vanessa more screen time she hasn't earned. Vanessa, self-proclaimed thrill-seeker and low-rent femme fatale, has somehow managed to turn grief into a personality trait. Her alleged heartbreak over Doug evaporated faster than last week's ratings the moment she slid back into Joey's bed. One day of tears, a few crocodile sobs, and voila, she's back to chasing danger with her new partner in crime. The woman moves on faster than the plot does, and that's saying something. Her behavior isn't intriguing. It's exhausting. She's reckless, indiscreet, and entirely unaware of her own incompetence. Every decision screams self-sabotage. She's the type who would take a calculated risk without remembering how to count. Worse yet, when the walls close in, and they inevitably will, she'll crumble into hysterics and hand over everyone to save herself. Should anything happen to her son, the character's redemption arc will be buried next to Doug. Meanwhile, Joey, the supposed mastermind, seems to have traded one liability for another. He can't control Vanessa any more than Doug could, which means he'll likely have to eliminate her next. Their chemistry has all the tension of a gas leak, volatile, inevitable, and waiting to blow. Still, Vanessa's motivations deserve a grim sort of fascination. She's less a grieving widow than a junkie hooked on adrenaline. Emotional intimacy, moral boundaries, even survival instincts, none of it registers. The rush is all that matters. In fact, the character reads as distinctly male-coded. Swap her gender, and no one would blink at her reckless spiral. It's a car crash in slow motion, ghastly, absurd, and impossible to look away from. And yet, beneath all this chaos, the central mystery refuses to die. Is Doug actually dead? The evidence is as inconsistent as the writing. There's speculation that Marcel may have staged the crash, possibly with Joey's help, or without it. Maybe Doug's been shipped off to some remote locale, forced into labor for Joey's operation. Perhaps Marcel cut a deal with federal agents, making Doug's death part of a larger sting. Throw in the possibility of an FBI agent arriving to unravel the mess, and suddenly, the soap starts to sound like a conspiracy thriller with a body count of 0. If this theory pans out, it could salvage some intrigue. If not, the writers are simply prolonging a storyline that flatlined months ago. Either way, it's time to pull the plug or give it purpose, because as it stands, Doug's ghost isn't haunting the show. The writing is.